Morning, everybody. Let's call to order the regular session of the Board of Supervisors meeting for January 27th, 2026. Roll call, please, Ms. Schulter.
Kurtenbach.
Yes.
Leyland. Paul.
Here.
Schwartz.
Here.
Grant.
Here. All right. We will take a moment of silence to reflect on this morning's actions. If you're able, stand for the join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, item number 1, agenda received as proposed or as amended.
So moved.
Second.
And seconds, all in favor, say aye.
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 All right, number 2, public comments. This is time for anybody from the public to make comments on anything that's not on the agenda, if you so wish. Anybody going once? Going twice? All right, nobody interested. Item number 3, claims and payments. Resolution that the Board of Supervisors approve expenditures and that the county auditor be authorized and directed to issue payments against the various settlement of such claims as allowed.
So moved. Second.
Motion is second. Resolution roll call, please. Ms. Showalter.
Did I read it first?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
You're good.
Good morning, Board. Our total bill payment today is $292,013.48. And out of that, the 60/40 fund is $3,290.38. And I don't have too many large payments today, but just one. We are paying to purchase a vehicle for maintenance from Dan Leary, $42,650. Everything and payroll. This was payroll week. Total gross pay of $1,124,636.80. Total paid is $1,620,149.24 with payroll taxes. Everything appears to be in order. Any questions?
Why more detail this time? Or have I not paid attention to the payroll stuff at other meetings?
It was just requested to be
Oh,
added a few
nice.
weeks ago, so
I like it.
we're starting to do that for you.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, now we're good to go, right?
Yep.
Resolution, so roll call, please, Ms. Showalter.
Leyland.
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Kurtenbach.
Yes.
Paul.
Yes.
Grant.
Yes. Item number 4, project updates from department heads or elected officials.
Good morning, Board. Kathy Nicholas, engineer. All roads are in pretty good condition today. I did want to show you a few photos of our living snow fence project. And we started this last year in 2025 was our first year with that. We are the area along old Highway 20 on Independence, Holgate, and Osage roads. We do get a lot of drifting there in the winter months because there's snow on the ground, and we wanted to implement this living snow fence policy first in that corridor just to see how it was working. We sent letters out last spring. We were able to get 2 farmers to participate with us this year. We paid them approximately $1,800 for their to leave their crops up, about 12 rows. Both farmers did something a little bit different. And we have a total of 3,500 feet of living snow fence. So these are a few of the photos that were taken just last week. So we've been fortunate that that snowfall we had earlier in November and December, that was able to melt off and clear out, make more storage in our ditches. Because we have had quite a bit of snow in January. So here you can see this is the Independence and Old Canfield area, looking to the west. There would be, you can see that the snow is piling up there in front of the fence, so it is working. This is moving on further to the east of that corridor. This is on Holgate Road, which is a north-south road, the paved portion of that road between Osage and Independence. And there, the snow is piled up nicely. The snow fence is working out very well. And then this is looking in the other direction, going the other direction on Holgate Road. And you can see in the right photo that is quite a bit of snow. It's about 8-foot high drift there. And this does prevent us from, we have not had to take our loader or our gradle out there this year at all. Normally, that's what we would do. We would have spent a lot of time in the last few weeks with our loader out there, just pushing the snow back, making that fence higher. And that does prevent drifting then when it's a higher fence. Anyway, so that saved a lot of wear and tear on our equipment and a lot of employee time to not have to go out there this year. So we think it's been well worth the $1,800 that we've had to pay the farmers. We do anticipate trying this, or asking these same farmers, perhaps more farmers along that corridor will see the benefits and will want to participate as well. And then our next location will probably be University Avenue in the western portion of the county that we would like to invite those farmers to participate this coming winter. So we think it's been very successful. Can I answer any other questions?
You probably told us last year, and I've since forgotten, but how did we target who was going to be good sites for the?
Yeah, so our maintenance staff told us, our superintendent, the motor grader operators, snowplow drivers, they've told us what areas that have drifted. Historically been areas that have had a lot of drifting. Independence, Holgate. Just last year, we had to take the loader out there. Many years in the past, we've had to take the loader out on Independence and push back snow because it's drifting over the road. So that was our first choice, just because we know we do need to take the loader out there. That's how we came up with that location. And like I said, University Avenue is also another area that gets quite a bit of drifting. So that we just sent letters along the entire corridor to farmers and just waited for a response.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other department heads or elected officials? Hearing none, we move on to item number 5, minutes approved for January 20th, 26th regular meeting and the January 21st, 2026 work session. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Excuse me. Item number 6, consent agenda. The following items will be acted upon by a single resolution without separate discussion, unless someone from the board or the public requests that a specific item be considered separately.
So moved. Second.
Second.
Right. Billy, go ahead.
Oh,
Stage is yours.
Actually, I'm just here, Billy Heth, good morning board, Billy Heth with the Treasurer's Office, the Financial Accounting Manager. I have 3 items on there for the semi-annual reports that we place on file with the county auditor, and I'm up here in case you have any questions.
You answered mine yesterday, so.
Thank you for coming and asking us.
You bet.
I don't have any.
Okay, thank you, board.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Kurttenbach,
Yes.
Leyland,
Yes.
Brant.
Yes. All right, item number 7, other business. A resolution that the suspension requested by Angela Talaska on taxes owed for parcel number 8712-25-461-005 located at 501 Walnut Street, LaPorte City for 2025 and 2026 installments in the amount of $1,208 to be approved pursuant to Code 427.8 of the Code of Iowa. And the county treasurer be authorized and directed to adjust her records accordingly.
So moved. Second.
Motion second. Roll call, please.
Kurttenbach,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Leyland,
yes,
Grant.
Yes. Item B, another resolution that the change order 004 received for Peters Construction for the Pinecrest renovation project in the amount of $34,817 be approved and for the chair to sign for the same as recommended by Rory Giving, Facilities Director.
So moved.
Second.
Good morning, Board. Rory Giving, Facilities Director. Just want to apologize in advance here because I know we had this on last week. We asked for it to be postponed, and now this week I'm going to be asking for the dollar amount to change, and I'll give a justification for that. But I would like the record to reflect, rather than $34,817, I'd like it to reflect $21,729. And that's the removal of PR number 50, which has to do with flooring renovations and scope additions. The reason that I've asked to have that removed is throughout this project on Phase B, what we're finding is the terrazzo, or the mosaic tile that's underneath that was the original flooring in that building, is in very rough shape, and it's causing us to have to put a lot of fill in to get that floor leveled. So when we put the VCT tile, it doesn't transpose the grout lines and the design of that mosaic tile. So we know we're going to have some additional fill coming our way as we proceed throughout the project. And so rather than doing these change orders redundancy, I'd like to get that all put into one change order. So that's the rationale for this. So if the board would, I'd like to ask or recommend that we proceed with the change order at the $21,729.
Rory, do we have terrazzo being done there as well?
No, it's what we're putting in is a combination of VCT tile, vinyl tile, and carpet. But the original flooring was a mosaic tile and had several areas that were spalled, several areas that aren't even. And in order to put that VCT tile, that really needs to be smoothed out and filled in. Otherwise, that can't transpose over time through that VCT tile.
Hey, Roy, this is Chris. Are there, just out of curiosity, are there still some areas where the historic mosaic tile is still able to be utilized, like in the stairwell or?
Yeah,
stuff?
we're not touching
Okay.
the stairwells. That is actually in pretty good shape. The chapel area up on the stage, by the time we're all said and done, those will probably be the two areas that will have the mosaic exposed. Yeah, it is a little bit disheartening because it is beautiful tile, but it is in very rough shape. Throughout the years with the plumbing and heating work that's gone on in that building, it really put a toll on that mosaic tile, and then not to mention the glue that had to be put over top of it for the previous flooring as well. So yeah, there really wasn't anything that we could save. We did go through and we did look at that pretty closely. But yes, to answer your question, it'll be the stairwells and the stage.
All right, thanks. Yeah, I know it's not cheap. It's what I want to put in my kitchen eventually. So,
Thank you.
Resolution, roll call, please, Ms. Schulter.
Leyland,
yes,
Schwartz,
yes.
Paul,
Yes, although do we need to change the dollar amount in our resolution?
hey Mike, do they need to take that motion
Yeah, they're
again?
gonna have to make a motion again
Sorry.
No, good, it's a good point.
So do you want me to go ahead and?
Do the motion.
Yeah, so I'll redo the motion to reflect the change in the amount of $21,729.
Chris, do you wanna second that again?
Yes.
Alright. We'll do this again. Leyland,
yes,
Schwartz,
Yes.
Paul,
Yes.
Kurttenbach,
then. Yes.
Brant.
Yes. Item C, motion to direct the county auditor to advertise for public hearing to be held at 9:05 a.m. on Tuesday, February 10th, 2026, in boardroom 201 of the Blackhawk County Courthouse, 316 East 5th Street, Waterloo, Iowa, on the proposed ordinance number 77-304 from a request submitted by Robert P. Denny to rezone 18.93 acres located north of 5640 West Cedar Wapsie Road from A, Agricultural District, and C-M Commercial Manufacturing District to C-M Commercial Manufacturing District.
So moved. Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion passes. All right, number 8, work session. Discussion, consideration of all aspects of the 27 Blackhawk County budget. We will begin with Soil and Water District, Jerry Thornsberry and Vern Fish.
I'd like to have the pleasure of introducing the chair of the Blackhawk County Soil and Water Conservation District. This is Jerry Thornberry. My name is Vern Fish, and Chair, can I have permission to approach because I have some materials to hand out?
Of course.
Thank you, and I don't know how I'm going to get it to the two that aren't here. Can I just do this right if you would?
You got it.
And Jerry, you wanted to make some comments, and then she's going to turn me loose. So.
Because Vern serves as our treasurer. I just want to level our understanding. The Blackhawk Soil and Water Conservation District is not a nonprofit. It is a part of the state government, and we have a chapter that informs the formation of the district and also the responsibilities. That's Chapter 161. And our mission in Blackhawk is to promote and protect and maintain and improve with wise use of our soil and water. And we are so appreciative of the $10,000 that the board has allocated to us because conservation is getting more and more important as the years go on. We are governed by 5 elected commissioners, and our board is very, very active. I served as the president of our state association for 2 years and got to know a lot of the boards throughout the counties, and I am so proud of the work that Blackhawk does because we are involved in so many grants and have really improved the soil health in Blackhawk, and we're working on the water quality. We're not paid. We get a stipend from the Department of Agriculture of $3,000, and it's used for administrative costs. And conservation work is never done. And not long ago at an annual conference, our state climatologist, Justin Glisson, said, as he closed his very sobering presentation, that with the climate change that we are experiencing now, the entire infrastructure of our United States is built for a climate that does not exist. And that means our, our water lines, our sewers, just our homes, everything is going to be impacted more and more and more with serious storms and catastrophic fires, et cetera, et cetera. And so that gives me chills, and it really improves our resolve to do more and more. And a lot of farmers here in Blackhawk are very conservation oriented, and they are doing a lot, but it takes a lot more to get us where we need to be. Vern is going to talk about some of the projects that we're doing.
Briefly.
And some numbers.
And what you have in front of you is a paper PowerPoint, so bear with me here, and I apologize for the 2 board supervisors that are not in the room, but we work in watersheds. And if you notice the very first photo there is Prescott Creek. That's the one in our backyard right behind our office, and that's our staff. But if you ever get a chance to see the one in the middle, the Miller Creek, it's a project that we worked on for a long period of time. We have a great video on our website. And what I just watched it again the other day, and I almost choke up every time I watch it, because you've got all these businessmen and women that are running an operation who have to make payroll, have to make money, and they're still very concerned about the snow not being black and the water being clean. And so Miller Creek was one of our lodestars, one of our first programs that we did. The other one that we really spent a lot of time on, and you can see it there, Dry Run Creek. It was one of the first urban projects done in the state of Iowa. The state came to us and said, can you guys make this work? It's not working in other counties. That grant is coming to an end. We are in the process of reapplying, and what the state is telling us is they'd like to see a bigger program, a little broader. So with that said, we're reaching out to some other partners, and we're having that dialogue, and we have between now and July 1, when the next fiscal year starts, to figure that out. And so hopefully we'll be able to come back at some point and say, we got a new partner, we got a little broader vision of this, and it may be with the city of Waterloo, maybe with continuing on with Cedar Falls, but it's an example of our urban work that we're doing. The other piece that I will throw at you, you notice another watershed logo on there, Black Hawk Creek. That's a partnership that we do with Grundy County. And I've been to a couple of their meetings, and I say, you guys are doing all the work and I get all the benefit, because I live on the green belt, I get to play in my boat, I get to paddle it, but all the work is happening up in the watershed. So that's a partnership. And one a little closer to what you're doing is Hickory Hills, the work that was done down there, tremendous. Mike, give Mike some credit. He picked up where I left off, but great job there. But the piece that we could do is work with the Tama County Soil and Water Conservation District to get a grant to get private and landowners who are in that watershed to improve their conservation practices. So that's one of those examples of we're working in those watersheds even when they're outside of the county. I've included a sample or the budget that we're working on for this year. There's a lot of educational opportunities. There's partnerships there with the Hawkeye Community College. And I've also put a proposal together for fiscal year 2027. And again, you'll see a lot of educational information. Also, there's two photos on the front page that show two of our most recent interns. And that's kind of neat to see these young people in our office doing the kind of work and gaining that kind of experience. So a lot of what we do is education. We're cheerleaders, and I like to think that we pull people together because we don't have a lot of money. We have very little money. We get $3,000 from the state, which is basically, to run the office. If you notice on that front page, it also shows the NRCS, IDOLS, and DNR. Well, Schaefer Ridgeway is a district of conservation. He's a federal employee. He's a partner. He's not our employee. Jenna Kern is a conservation assistant. She works for IDOLS. She does our work for us, but she's not our employee. And then Josh Bulk, who was on Mike's board and has since left, he was the DNR representative for Dry Run Creek. And so that was another partner that we worked with. He's not our employee. So as we go forward, we're not sure how that Dry Run Creek project is going to look. We may end up with a grant, hopefully. We may end up with an employee, hopefully. But it's going to be a bigger project, and we're kind of excited about trying to explore those possibilities. So I'm going to stop, and I'll let Jerry finish.
One more thing, we just received a grant for the Middle Cedar watershed. We're beginning to think about watersheds because county lines don't matter. And it's 10 counties that we're working with. So, and it's led by us. Again, Black Hawk is getting a big reputation. We had a great reputation at the state level. But we're working with Cedar Rapids and all the counties around doing urban resources. We're beginning to work with the urban sector, which is growing. It's been growing ever since COVID, when people started, going back to having their gardens in their backyards. But now we have actual producers that are in the vegetable market. And it's pretty exciting to see that sector take off from the ground level and to be a part of it. And so, once again, thank you for your contribution to the citizens of Black Hawk County, helping us improve their quality of their life with clean water and keeping our soil on the ground.
And thank you to Michelle for being patient with us, because we've pressed her a few times on trying to figure out how to make the cash flow. We appreciate your patience, and we'll continue to work make this happen. So with that,
thank you for your time.
thank you for your time.
Questions?
Jerry and Vern, I'll just add, sorry I'm not there in person today. I've got a cold, but I wish I was there to celebrate your good work. Board, last week I mentioned two different large grants, one for the Middle Cedar River watershed that's $1 million grant from the EPA that we've been awarded, but we're waiting on the agreements. And the other was for the whole watershed that we're working with the Nature Conservancy that's going to be, that we're applying to from Fish and Wildlife Services. I'll just point out that the good work that the folks at the commission are doing, especially having that urban watershed project in those 10 counties, made us much more competitive for those. And so it's just a a good example of how they're using such little resources to help us leverage, multi-million-dollar investments throughout the watershed. That it's just going to help us all.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
We've got your guys' contact info. I'd like to talk with you more in depth about this whole
Be happy to have that
Oh,
conversation.
yeah.
topic. In your experience, do you feel like farmers are still resistant to some of the more modern conservation practices, or are they kind of coming around?
I don't think they're resistant. I think it's just that there's an ownership issue. There's a lot of folks that are renting. There's a lot of folks that are living out of state. So it's almost kind of unusual to find somebody that actually lives on the homestead and owns the ground and farms it. So you've got a lot of different levels of ownership, in-state, out-of-state, and that kind of thing, and whether they're renting or not. So it's a challenge sometimes to just find the person that actually is in charge to have that discussion. If you watch that video I made reference to in Miller Creek, those are all owner-operators, and there's a big difference because they're on the ground, and they've been there for multiple generations. But sometimes you're trying to get a hold of somebody who doesn't live in the state, and it's hard to convince them. And then I'll make reference to Bill Dossler. One of the things he once told me about dealing with water quality is it's got a cash flow. And you can't ask somebody to lose money on a project, and so we got to figure out how to do this so we protect the soil, protect the water quality, but still got a cash flow. And so that's always a challenge, and if you're an out-of-state renter, it's kind of hard to convince you to make a little less money to save some water quality. So that's a long answer to your question. I'd be happy to dig deeper into it at your convenience.
Yeah, I'll get in touch with you guys.
Thank
you
you.
so much.
I appreciate the report here, that really does help. It is almost eerie, the fact that you and Mike sound like the exact same, even to like the speed and the cadence. I looked up a couple of times. So that evidently there's this like conservation training that's impressive.
I think Mike will take that as a compliment. I'm not sure.
On item 3 in your FY27, your workshops, just so we can, you've got annual banquet in there.
Yep.
That's not covering like food and beverage or any of that sort of stuff.
No. We're not, no.
Yep, just make sure.
No, we're aware of that, and we have to juggle
Follow the
things.
state laws too.
Yep.
Yeah, we got state laws we gotta deal with too.
Yeah.
So,
But the one point that you talk about, Justin, is the I can't remember the exact number, but the out-of-state owners of farm ground in Iowa, the percentage is quite high. And it is so difficult to trace back, because if a farmer has a lease for just a year, they're not gonna do a lot of conservation work, then they take a hit on their line. And we all know what happened with the export market for corn and soybeans. Those contracts for 5 years, and we'll see if we get those customers back.
And I still see a lot of fields being tilled though too, and I know it's kind of a big part of this.
Yeah, I'm not gonna disagree with you. All I can say is there's a lot of good people do a lot of good work, and those are the ones we can talk to. It's harder when they're living in Arizona, so those are challenges we face all across the state.
You've talked about some of the other watersheds, Drywood Creek, Middle Cedar. I'm on the Upper Wapsie.
Yeah.
Do you do much work with Upper Wapsie watershed yet?
The Watershed Management Authority was an idea passed by the state,
But they didn't give them any authority.
or no funding. And so when you have a watershed that has mainly rural counties around it, it's really difficult to get any funding at all. Some of the other watersheds, because they have cities and businesses and whatever, they get funding to do stuff. And yeah, we share the concern with the Upper Wapsie.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's beating us to death. The challenge is, like Cedar Rapids has figured out, you gotta work with the people upstream. And Mary Beth Stevenson, who works for the city of Cedar Rapids, used to be with the DNR, she's involved with us all the time, the grant that we mentioned here earlier. And so it's always our challenge to work, if we're gonna affect water quality and flooding upstream, we gotta figure out how to work with the people upstream, and it's just a challenge. So watersheds don't follow political lines, and we have to figure out how to work on it.
We'd love to talk about this.
Yeah. Oh, we will.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And again, Michelle, thank you.
Number 2, facilities. Mr. Given.
Like the old days, following
Yeah,
orders.
try and keep up here.
Hopefully I can keep that energy going.
There it goes. Just needed to be rebooted.
All right. Facilities purpose statement. We did make some adjustments to that this year. What we tried to do was be a little more in line with our mission statement. I feel that is a strong purpose statement and something that really does reflect our department. As you go down, department objectives. I don't know if you can scroll, or do I have to do that? We did list out 4 of our main objectives, and number 1, preventative and responsive maintenance, contract management, energy monitoring, environmental sustainability, and collaboration and leadership. I feel like that is a strong purpose statement. Next, before I get started on the budget, I'd just like to say a special thank you to Carol. Carol and I work very hard to every year to refine this budget. I feel like it is a good budget. I feel, over the years we do have to make adjustments, and we'll kind of go through that. But just a special thank you to Carol for uploading all the information and working close with Michelle throughout this process. Also, another special thank you to our facility staff. I know I had mentioned this at the end of the year accomplishments, but again, their hard work, dedication, especially as they've coordinated with the multiple contractors across the many projects that we have going on currently, along with their current duties. So this has been a trying last couple of years, but the staff is doing a great job, so a special thank you to them. Also, thank you to county departments for their patience, their flexibility, partnership over the last year as we work through these projects and scheduling, the impacts that we have with these projects on their departments. Just thank you for their patience. Also, on another note, with regards to the strategic planning, I will say it has been really impressive to see the staff buy-in with this new mission statement and the core values. I really truly feel that we are on our way to embedding this into how we work every day. We have our staff meetings weekly, and we would test the staff, but now Gabby's gone and put the cheat sheets on every wall, so but no, truly, it is pretty interesting to see how the buy-in on this and the excitement from our staff. So thank you, board, for investing in that, and I think we're going to see some great benefits as we move forward. So, all right, operating budget. So we'll start with the revenues. As you'll notice, we are down on revenues, and that is primarily because of the county social services vacating the Pinecrest facility. They did pay a percentage or a portion of our building expenses, so that's where we see that reduction in revenue. The utility reimbursement from Consolidated Communications, we've kept that virtually the same. And then we also have our reimbursement from HHS and our reimbursement from court administration and jury parking spaces here. HHS, we will more than likely see a slight reduction in the percentage of space that they occupy over at Pinecrest due to the shifting of departments. At this point, we're unsure of how much storage space they're going to need up on the 5th floor, so that will ultimately play a part into that final number, but we are kind of hovering right around that 49 to 50%. Previously, we were around 54%, so we're very close, but we may see a slight reduction in that. So just want to point that out on the revenue side. Expenses. Our expenses this year are fairly straightforward. We have increased our printing services. I think we had talked, or it was mentioned last week, with the guards ticketing. You'd be amazed how expensive those tickets are. We charge $5 for a normal ticket. Those tickets actually cost us about $4. So that may be something down the road, if we want to continue doing this, that we may look at an ordinance change potentially to recoup some of those costs a little more. Yeah, because by the time you factor in, the guard having to go outside and write that ticket, obviously the guards are a contracted price, so it's not like having an hourly employee going out and doing that. But still, that is quite shocking, the cost of those carbon copy style tickets. So. So we did increase that by $1,000 just to cover ourselves for that additional cost. Scrolling down, number 574, which is our minor equipment, looking at what our actuals were in 24-25, we did increase that by $2,000. And quite honestly, looking at that, we're looking at tools. And our guys do a very good job maintaining their tools in good working order, but we do have some that are starting to age out that we know that we're going to have to start replacing. So we are asking for a slight increase in that line item.
Where do you guys go for tool replacement?
It's kind of all over the place. We'll shop around. I mean, we've gone to Campbell's, we've gone to Menards, Home Depot, Fastenal, even Harbor Freight. So yeah, we really do. Kind of depends on the tool. If it's something that's going to get a lot of use, we'll put a little bit more money into it just because we know we get something of better quality. If it's just a onesie twosie type thing, we might go with a little less expensive agency to buy that. So we just kind of case by case. We did increase 588 for safety. We had an increase there. We will have to change out all of our AED pads this coming year for our AEDs. That I believe is about a $4,500 increase. I want to say they're $120 a pair. I did not make a note on how long those will last, but if you're curious, I can get back to you on that.
Which one was that, Roy? I'm sorry.
That's the number 588, safety and protective items. Professional services. If you recall, last year we did pull out $50,000 for Honeywell, that contract. Honeywell was our previous building automation controls for the HVAC system. This year we're actually in the process of updating that with Johnson Controls. So we're wanting to put that back in there with the assumption that we'll have a service agreement coming our way at some point. What I hope to be able to do is combine that service agreement with Pinecrest, because they'll have the same operating system over there as what we have at the jail. So I'm hoping we get some added benefit by consolidating those two facilities. So we're looking forward to seeing what that comes out at. Obviously, we have taken on a new facility with the VA department. That was a pretty substantial increase in our janitorial cost. Our utilities, just operation costs. So that's reflected in this expense, as well as our Sycamore shop. We did have a slight increase with the addition of that shop as well. I do have several capital items yet this year, and that Sycamore shop is one of them. that we hope to be able to put in some efficiencies, improvements to that shop to kind of help us in the long term.
Is our security contract also through that professional services line?
Security is actually, we pull out the Pinecrest security under our professional, but the courthouse security is pulled out of room and board with the sheriff's department.
But this does reflect Pinecrest security?
It does, yes. So ultimately, we don't like to see it increase. This is, I think, largely in part of those revenue reductions that we saw from county social services and the increase in facilities, but we are looking at 11.05% increase in our operating budget. Any questions on that before I go into capital?
I think it was about 9%.
Pardon me?
If you exclude the Honeywell that we took out last year and are now putting back, I think the increase then is about 8 or 9%.
Yeah, you're right. Thank you.
Could you just maybe touch on the, forgive me if I missed it, but the repair materials and labor, the 17,000 reduction from last year? Line 1034.
Yes, so we're putting in all new fan coil units over at the Pinecrest facility, which will be much more energy efficient. The old units, over 300 of them, as we pulled those out, we did discover that many of them were, I would say, 75 to 90% blockage. And so with the new addition of those fan coil units, we hope to see a reduction in that building expense there. Yep.
Roy, on that topic, any idea what the lifespan is on those?
On the fan coil units?
The new ones, yeah.
20 years is typically what they'll put on any type of equipment like that. Now, keep in mind, we do service those ourselves. We'll replace fans as they go out. We'll put in a preventative maintenance program on them to keep the coils clean. I think that's where we ran into our biggest troubles is those were put in 1989, and I don't want to put bad light on previous practices, but there really wasn't a program for cleaning those. Moving forward, we will have a yearly program to keep those units clean. So hopefully we can get a lot more life out of them than what we saw previously. Yeah.
Roy, on line 1059 utilities,
Yes.
does this reflect any of the savings we might see with the consolidated, what we did with QFP this year?
Not so much, because we're not sure exactly where that's going to end up. In fact, I just received an email with the extreme weather that we have, that the rates for that transportation gas, we might see that kind of bounce around a little bit here as a reflection of the severe cold weather. So I kept that kind of status quo to see where we end up on that.
Okay.
And quite honestly, the jail, we were under that Constellation prior, so really all we added on was our other facilities, courthouse and Pinecrest. Moving on, if there's no other questions on the operating budget, do you want to touch on capital? So we have a fairly light capital list this year, and quite honestly, we still have, we have over $2 million worth of capital projects yet this fiscal year that we'll be working on. Just to mention a couple of the bigger ones, again, not to do with this particular budget, but some of the larger ones, we still have the second floor remodel that we're kind of looking at that at all angles. And then we also have the IT. Those are two of the larger projects that we have outstanding yet. And then we have our ADA counters here at the courthouse. That is outstanding. Those are some of the larger ones that we have left to do. So we know we have a pretty busy schedule coming up. And so I purposely tried to spread out our 5-year plan appropriately to be able to manage that. So starting at the top, we have, I did put some monies in there for landscaping over at the Pinecrest facility. This is going to be primarily for the south side of the building. Over the years, that has been a very labor-intensive area to keep the weeds down, and what I'd like to do is pull that rock back, either clean it, repurpose it, get some weed barrier in there, get that rock back in there, and start looking at what we can do to make that a little bit more appealing and less labor intensive. So I did put in $32,000 for that, and keep in mind, I also have landscaping monies for the courthouse too. So we may be able to incorporate a couple of those both to get a little bit more bang for our buck. Carpet in the common spaces at Pinecrest on second, third, and fourth floor. This is outside of the elevator areas. That carpet, I believe, was put in 2006 and is showing a lot of wear and tear, particularly after our big project here. It's a lot of traffic going over that area. So I did put in some carpet replacement for this budget. Elevator cab remodel. If you've been over to Pinecrest recently, I wish I had a photo. I probably should have put one together, but it is in dire need of an upgrade over there. The paneling is starting to come loose. The carpet is in pretty bad shape. So that number actually came right from our elevator company that services our elevators. So I feel pretty confident in that number. Courthouse Phase 2 of 6, building automation system upgrade. As you know, we've already gone through the one phase, which we're actually just wrapping up on. We just did training with our staff last week. This second phase will just be incorporating changing out more controllers and changing out, getting those controllers tied onto our system with the ultimate goal of eliminating pneumatics throughout the building, so we can ultimately eliminate our air compressor and get us better functionality. Right now, we have several VAVs that give us a lot of headaches as far as air leakage. We're constantly having to work on those units, and the efficiencies over these 6 phases over time will be a definite improvement to this building. But I just wanted to break that out so it's a realistic project that we can get completed over the next 6 years. Sewage injection pump. This is what I consider a critical spare piece of equipment that we have here at the courthouse. We did have to use our backup, our critical spare backup this year, and so I'm just asking to replace that, to have it on hand. Well pump, if you recall, last spring we did have issues with our well. It was recommended that we change out that pump, and so that's for the courthouse here. And then caulking on the courthouse building around the windows and the perimeter. Best that I can tell is back in 1999 when we did a full-blown replacement of the caulking around this building, and so very labor intensive. But I did put $150,000 in for that. That's our capital for FY27.
On the carpet,
Yes.
would there be a better cost alternative, like long term? How long does that last?
You know, in that facility, particularly on the second, third, and fourth floor, I would think we could get a good 20 years out of that carpet. It was right around 2006 when they put that in there, and it has seen a lot of, particularly in the last year with the contractors hauling equipment and carts back and forth. I think I would be safe to say we could get 20 years out of good carpet in there. I think I'd prefer to go with carpet than vinyl for the same reasons that we're seeing in the clinic area that we're remodeling in the health department with that transposing mosaic tile. I'm afraid if we start looking at a hard surface, we're going to have to prep that floor more so than we would have to with carpet. So I think that would be the lesser expensive option to go with.
We're right through capital improvements. How does this differ from what you were presenting last year? we're looking at that 5-year plan laying out.
How is it
Is this
different?
pretty much, yeah, is this pretty much the same as what you're?
Very close. I did add the breakout of the courthouse building automation system. I don't believe I had that in there last year, so I did add that.
Okay.
Other than that, boiler replacement going all the way out to 2031. I don't necessarily have issues with the boiler, but I'll know they'll be, approximately 22 years old at that time, and that does hit the end of its useful life. So I think just to be physically responsible, I did put that on the list just so we can account for it.
Okay.
And you'll probably see the next set of boilers on next year's list. It's hard to believe that those have already reached that time span because it feels like we just did that project.
Maybe a question for Michelle. Just thinking through some proposed legislation, how that might impact bonding. Does it, us having such a jump into 28, does it maybe make sense for us to even for, cause that debt ops budget, that's our debt service. Those are the projects we can bond for, correct?
The department, those are ones we do not bond for. The capital request column is what we would bond for. And the 675 that's in fiscal 28, I believe we already have that funding set aside.
We did, yes.
So while they're gonna do it then, I think that kind of comes off this request, so.
Okay.
And yes, who knows what we're gonna be able to do. There's
Well,
one-
just, right, we're 1.3 off, I mean, the jump for FY 28 would be a good jump, and if we're limited on our bonding, well,
Future.
if bonding is a whole nother game, does it make sense? The stairwell, for instance, we've talked about the stairwell since I got here. And so, to me, it might seem like, yes, that, maybe there's a way to play with that, massage that number a little bit to get it under the threshold of 400,000 and change that we'd be able to bond for without referendum, but,
Well, so buildings, we have a higher limit.
okay,
So
that one would,
okay on that unless and until they change it.
so then does it, is,
If we can, we can talk about this later,
Yeah.
I think, but yes, we talked about not bonding every year anyway, so we definitely could decide to issue in the end of 27 and cover 2 years, yeah. That might make some sense depending what the legislature does.
and then just a general question, if we could, there's a couple items that I think are outstanding yet. And I don't know if they come in this budget or if they're in other departments' budgets, but for instance, the server room. It would just be kind of nice to know what, the server and IT migration and then potential, board administration or that whole corridor back in that corridor. What does that, where are we at? Cause I know that was in a capital, I believe we approved that in last year's
Yep.
cap.
Yeah, we had, for second floor office remodel, we had 800,000 budgeted for that, and we had another 455 budgeted for the IT portion.
Okay.
I think it all depends on what the board chooses to do on things to, how that should work. The server,
Yeah.
the server room itself is an ARPA project.
Sure.
Supposed to be done, I know something we're waiting on right now.
I was just thinking if there was some way to, at a glance, even see not just the forward 5 years, but maybe the last couple to see what we have approved that maybe is still outstanding. I don't know if there's none of it's an easy way, and I get that, especially in budget session, but if there is a way for us to look at a glance of what we've already said we wanna spend money on, so that we can have a better perspective of what we're looking at spending money on over the next 5 years.
I can work on putting something together. That will take,
Yeah, don't expect it today or tomorrow or
next week. Yeah.
Vehicles, yeah, right.
So you're looking at not doing any of the vehicles until 27.
Sorry, I didn't mention, we do have another part of our cycling out our fleet. We do have another pickup on for next year as well. The pickup that we're looking at changing out is a 2011 Ford 3/4 ton pickup that we use for plowing. Now, this only has 32,000 miles on it, but keep in mind, those are very hard miles in our pickups. And so we do have that listed out, and then I believe we go out one more year, and then our fleet should be up to snuff. So, and we'll put that 2011 out on Gov Deals. It is still worth some money. I think we're better off to do that than we are to trade it in. That's what we found out anyway. Any questions on any of that? Don't like necessarily coming with an increase in operating expense, but this is, I think this is one of those years where now that we've identified the new facilities moving forward, hopefully we can achieve more closer to a flat line expense. So.
How do you determine a priority level for some of the projects?
Typically what I'll do is look at safety for one. If it's a safety related issue, I will kind of rank that a little higher. If it's potential damage to the facility, I'll give that a higher ranking. And just outage, is it going to put our facility out of commission? So we'll look at those variables. Like for an example, the sewage injection pump, obviously if that went, not obviously, but there is quite a lead time to get that pump here. So it is, I think, critical to have that backup on site so we can prevent having to shut the building down because of a pump. I think that's physically responsible to do that. So obviously that would rank a little higher.
It just made me, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yep, go ahead.
I was gonna say, just, the word sewage just made me think of the sheriff's office smell over at intake.
Yes.
Is there any way to dial that in and figure out like what a long-term solution might be?
Well, a few years back, we did replace all of the laterals, sewage lines in the basement, which that was a big chunk of it. Now what we're addressing is lines that are in the ceiling, and as they crack, we go in and replace them. The intake, there's a room right before the intake where I think officers come in and do their notes. It's right above their scanner. We found a section of piping that the whole top side of it was gone. That was something we took care of in-house. We had to cover the scanning machine, get up in there, cut that pipe out, and replace it. So as we're constantly looking for bad pipe. Sometimes you don't catch it in time, and a lot of times that's what we're seeing over there. It's just an ongoing battle with that amount of activity.
Right.
It's unfortunate, but you got to assume there's 272 units in that jail, so it is a lot of activity going through those pipes. But what I can tell you is all of the laterals in the basement, those have been addressed, and those are our main ones. So I think the guys do a fairly good job of as soon as that comes our way, we're in the ceilings and we're looking. That has become part of their job, unfortunately, is chasing down sewer lines. And to be, I guess, to answer your question, to be more proactive, it'd be a huge undertaking, to look at phasing that and replacing all of that. That would be a project that we could look at doing, but it would be something we would have to phase, because we'd have to keep the jail in operation. That's part of our challenge, is it's a 24/7 facility. So trying to make these fixes and also stay running is the
Yeah,
challenge.
just made me think of it sometimes
Yeah.
or other.
Yeah. It's,
All right, thank you.
all right, thank you very much.
Thanks, Rory.
Up next, we have, should we take a 2-minute break? You good? Sure, if you want to. I'm good. Come on.
I'm good.
All right, we'll keep marching on. Information technology, Mr. Yu.
Should I wait for Supervisor? I can wait a second.
Yeah, it's up to you.
I'll wait a second.
Clock is ticking.
100 slides.
No slides?
Just kidding.
100?
Just kidding. I've never had 100 slides, like ever. Never will. You're gonna run that.
Yeah, we're just gonna move that. Hopefully that's all we need. Unplug.
Computer, yes.
I never had to do it. So who knows what it's going to do?
We understand that. I don't. Which means we leaving on Sunday tomorrow. I shouldn't say that to me. I shouldn't say that to anybody. I know. Please come. Still need to do. I'll catch up. I'm glad I'm doing this.
All right. Good morning, Board. Al Yu, IT Director. I also have Clint Hardman here, our Assistant IT Director. Started. So purpose. This used to be our mission statement, but we have changed it to a purpose statement to align with the strategic planning. And it says, securely meeting the technical needs of the county through forward thinking, learning, and innovation. And we actually have a couple of, one of the core values in there, and that was established before we did strategic planning, so I'm pretty happy we can align with that. Now, statistically out on the bottom, one thing I would like to point out, so in FY23, we adopted a help desk ticketing system that was partially in the year, so we don't have a full year's worth of tickets, but that alone, that partial year gave us 685 tickets. Then you see the jump in FY24, and that also reflects partially adopting support for the Sheriff's Department. And then in FY25, another big bump. So we are having more, we're taking more issues, but we have more support needs, and we are happy to meet the needs, but just knowing that the trend is, things keep breaking, so we'll keep fixing. All right, so on to the budget. So I'll just start at the top. So revenues, we are not a department that brings in a lot of revenue, and so part of the revenue in that top account line is a support payment from the assessors department. They pay us an annual fee, I believe it's $60,000, and then we provide support for the assessors. And the difference, the other amount would be we also charge abstract companies. We have 2 abstract companies, Title Services and Black Hawk Abstract. They have a remote access ability to use Tyler and Code, which is our property tax interface, and that way they don't have to physically come over here to look up all the data. And so I believe we charge them $150 a month per company to have that access to our system. No initial change that we have for FY27, but we may look into potentially increasing some of those fees as things get more expensive for the following year. Any questions on the revenue portion? Okay. Now with salaries and benefits, there is one, we are asking for an FTE, and that is reflected in here. I will ask if it's okay to cover that after I cover the operational expenses, and we'll come back to the FTE part. There is one portion in there where it does say that the insurance is going down by 6%. I believe that's due to a current 0.5 FTE vacancy. Is that correct? Am I reading that correct?
No, I think it's price on change from family.
Okay, gotcha. So wasn't that, sorry. All right, moving on to operations. So we don't have a very complicated budget, but there is a big thing on here that I have to draw attention to. So that is our 553 account. So the IT department does cover the maintenance renewal / subscription fees for a lot of the services that we provide for the whole county. So this includes Microsoft 365, the Tyler softwares, things like that. On the change, it is listed at 13.77% increase to the estimated amount of $69,776. That is a large operating expense. We do not love to see that number, but unfortunately, with the trends that we have and what we're projecting, the cost of doing business with all these software companies is going way, way up. So, for example, Tyler New World. New World is our financial ERP software. We cannot function without New World. From FY23, that annual renewal was $73,000. That in 1 year, the price jumped about almost $9,000. The subsequent year, a little over $9,000. And then this last year, went back down to about $5,600. We are estimating the price to increase again substantially, and so it could very well be in the we were estimating $105,000 increase. The trends are not great. I mean, but you know, percentage-wise, they've been increasing over 10%, which is. I don't know what we can do about that because it's the cost of doing business. We have to use them, and it may need to be a conversation that we have with Tyler to see if that can be lowered. I don't know, but that is what we are projecting, and that is just for New World, our finance system. For Encode, that handles our property tax management. That trend is slowly increasing, not as large of jumps, but we are estimating code. We're estimating that to jump from $78,000 to $82,000, so it's a $4,000 jump. So that aligns with the trends of the previous fiscal years. Jumps. The other one that I forgot to mention before, Tyler Time and Attendance. We are at the end of a 3-year term, which the price was locked in for 3 years. We are now going to receive a new renewal. We have no idea what that's going to look like. I currently am just projecting that to go up by a couple thousand. Not entirely sure, so we'll have to wait and see when that renewal comes in. Also in here is the Esri renewal. This is for our Esri is for our GIS software. That covers all the software for the entire county. We previously locked into a kind of a tiered staggered pricing, and now we renewed for another 3-year pricing that locks in the price for 3 years. But there was a difference in the before that renewal, so it is roughly about $5,000 that jump. But we are now locked in for 3 years. That's roughly $60,000 with Esri. The other big one is Microsoft 365. we pay a lot of money to Microsoft for access to email and our Office suite. With the sheriffs included last year, I believe the bill was $133,000 roughly. Microsoft just announced the bill is going up by 10%. I love it. So we are predicting the 10% into that number as well. And then lastly, sorry, I'm not going down every one of these. I'm just going some of the big hitters. And lastly, VMware. So they are the company that runs the virtualization for our servers. They were bought out by a large corporation called Broadcom. They are a big chip manufacturer. And this happened actually last year, and a lot of customers, their rates went way up. We were very fortunate to only see a small increase, roughly about a 3% increase. However, this coming year, our reseller, Heartland Business Systems, warned us it is likely going up 4 times the amount. So what we paid this last year was roughly $5,700. 4 times is the estimate of what they're telling us to expect, which is pretty obnoxious. And I'm hoping it's not that much, but we have to kind of brace for this increase. At some point, we do have plans to leave VMware. VMware is not the only player in this industry. However, for us to move away from VMware, it takes a lot of careful planning. Otherwise, it will cause a lot of disruption for the county, which I do not wish to do to everyone. So it is on our long-term plan to move away, and that we'll see cost savings. But again, we haven't seen what the invoice looks like, but it is coming soon. Roughly April is when the renewal is going to come, so we're kind of anticipating a large increase. So with that said, that is a large amount of money increase for the operating portion. Any questions on that particular account number 553?
And on 0553 in that software,
Mm-hmm.
does that include anything with consolidated communications, the assessor's office, or any other offices? Is that strictly just?
That's strictly just county. We don't have anything for consolidated and assessors. Assessors do pay in their amount, they do pay their share of the Office 365 licenses.
And then do we?
Actually, technically, the Tyler financial software, those 2 entities are run as custodial funds, so we do
Get
run all
some
their
funds.
transactions.
Okay. And then do we bill for like Board of Health and with their computers and stuff too? Is that something interdepartment that we change monies for some of those?
I mean, we cover everything for inside the county, so public health, all that's included with our annual renewals and things like that. So we don't, I think they do chip in for some of the ESRI licenses, but that's about it. I think computers, it falls under IT department, we replace those for them.
It's the same revenue source.
Yeah, that's why I was
Yeah.
wondering if they're doing any internal. Okay.
Al, this is Linda. How do you determine the rates that you'll charge those offices that are really non-county but county related?
So are you saying like assessors?
Yep.
I'm only charging them just a kind of a flat percentage. I didn't really do a huge calculation because it's chipped in between the assessor's office, engineer, public health. Those 3, they all pay exactly the same. I think I picked a percentage, and that's what they're chipping in for that. Can certainly talk about it and reconsider some of that too moving forward if that's what you like.
Sure.
I remember, I think it was last year, we talked a little bit about, I think currently we use Zoom. There was some discussion of, do we pay for Teams through our Microsoft?
That's part of the 365 license.
Right. So, would it make sense, just looking at places to play within the margins, right, of eliminating that Zoom subscription? Or have we?
Oh, we have done that
We
already.
did,
Yep. Yep. We had one for the whole county that used to run the board meetings, and we have since sunsetted that account. I think that happened last year, so. Yep, and it wasn't a large amount of money, but I mean, it was equated about $1,300 a year, but still, that helps. And then, so, any other questions regarding account 553?
Al, I do have questions, but I'll wait to discuss those with you personally, and I apologize to everyone presenting today. Obviously, not the best way to hear your budget session on Zoom, so thank you very much, so.
So some of the changes that we've done, and thanks to Michelle's help, our 552 account has always been one of our largest accounts that we kind of threw everything in, and it was kind of messy. So Michelle helped us divide some of that out and create a separate account. So 552 is now, moving forward, will only be computers. Any computers you buy will reside in that account code. Network equipment, which we all used to also bundle in there, we have now divided that out into 551. And then 0512 is the other miscellaneous supplies that made up the bulk of that original 552 account. So that really helps us. So that's why you see those 100%. They're just lateral movements. It's just helping us organize better and track those different purchases moving forward. So the 100% looks bad, but it's really just lateral movement. And then the other increase up to the dues in account number 260. That saw an increase of $2,000, and what we did was we just allocated funds from different accounts to make up for that. That $2,000 was for the county's MSI SAC membership. And what that does, that gives us a lot of cyber protection. It's honestly, it is a bargain. What we pay for that, what you could be paying for that, is in the 20,000s from third-party companies. We pay too. So that is absolutely amazing. So I will always advocate for that. It is a bargain. So, but we did just allocate other funds to kind of bump that particular account number up. And then so overall, our operating budget had an increase of 7.75%. Any questions on the overall operations portion?
So as of now, we don't know, we're just anticipating what the exponential increase will be. For
Yeah.
the VM.
VMware, Microsoft hasn't come in yet. Even if we get it for this fiscal year, it may not be a huge increase, but the subsequent year, which is what we're budgeting for, we're kind of bracing for impact, unfortunately. VMware, I have no doubt that price is going to go up. Just knowing how that corporation does business, it's not great. And a lot of other counties share our same sentiment. Some have had the ability to jump ship. We unfortunately can't do that quickly, but we do have that in the works. That's the plan of doing that. So hopefully it's just something that we can deal with for 1 year and then maybe get that back down to. And in theory, depending on the vendor we go to, it will actually a complete cut of VMware, no cost at all. If we go with Microsoft's product, it's part of the licensing that we pay for now, so it has no additional cost for us. So that's kind of the front runner at the moment, and then that will be a big item to remove from operating, which would be really good. Did you have anything to add? Any other questions for operating expenses? Just moving on to capital, we usually keep 12,000 as kind of a reserve amount in account 1100. That's usually reserved for either a server or a piece of network equipment in case of failure. We've been very fortunate to not have anything go down in our department, but we always kind of keep that in there. And otherwise, we really don't have a lot of capital that we keep in that section, and then the rest will be outlined in our 5-year plan. And I'll cover that here in a second. Any questions regarding capital? And we no longer put anything in the software over 150 because that's really expensive. I don't think we have anything over that amount, so. All right.
Michelle, let me
sorry.
ask something. Michelle, is it
do we budget dollars for like replacement computer equipment each year, that we have a separate fund that we're putting dollars in for when we have spikes and
We really haven't. There is a fund with some money in it. We are not setting aside an amount to contribute to it annually.
Okay.
So the funds that are set aside annually for computer replacement is what you see
okay.
in his operating budget, because they're below capitalization levels. Computers now, usually what we get is less than $1,000.
Okay. I'm just saying that's one of the things that you see a lot of turnover. I know some public entities put a separate fund there for budgeting for vehicles and other equipment like that. I didn't know if that's something that we did for computers or any kind of hardware.
Not formally.
Okay.
Now, to kind of go back to these, back to revenues and salaries. So on here, you have noticed at the bottom there that there is a proposed FTE for help desk. That is a brand new position that we are asking for. Just flip to the slide. So we are requesting an FTE for the help desk support specialist. This potential position will be at a GS-14 pay grade. What this position would do is act as the first line of defense for our department. We are not a very large department, so currently we have 2 technicians and 4 infrastructure team staff. Our 2 technicians have to also answer the phone in addition to going out and taking care of issues. And usually that has been felt as a strain on them because a lot of times they feel like they're tethered to the phone. So having a position like this will all be able to free them up and also kind of help us do more of a air traffic control. This is what I'm kind of describing this position as. It'll help us respond to requests better communication. And so this is, so with our current staffing, I would say we are optimal when all staff are here. But anytime that we have, planned absences, illness, things like that, it really does put a strain on our department, especially when things are going wrong and we have to react to it. We've had many instances where that has happened. And so that is why we are requesting this position to kind of keep the balance there. This position would be an entry-level position that would work up to a technician, and it is a very common position to have in the IT industry, in other companies, businesses, counties. And so we are asking for one of this position. And one of the big benefits is this person would allow us to kind of free us up to continue capacity for other planning projects. So when we are short-staffed, everyone picks up the slack. We all answer the phone. We kind of drop everything that we're doing in order to keep the ship afloat. And what would be, and don't get me wrong, we love what we do and we're happy to do it. But it does, every time this happens, it delays our projects, and we have endless projects. We have lots of projects, it's great. So never-ending work, but we love what we do. So this would help us focus on those projects again. Have better customer service, because I've always said we are a customer service department. We're not IT, we're customer service. We're here to serve everyone else in the county, who then in turn serve the citizens, and that is our role, and we are proud of what we do. So, but the staff would be able to increase the resiliency of our coverage, and just because there are times if for example, when we had the CrowdStrike issue. We left the phones. We literally left the office to go and touch every computer, and there was no one to man it. And at that point, we had to make that call. We couldn't be there to do that, and we had tons of phone calls, and people probably felt like we abandoned them, and that doesn't feel great by me. I want to make sure that we have that communication. So having this role will kind of help direct some of that communication traffic and keep everyone abreast of the situations. So, any question regarding this FTE?
I have a few, and I apologize in advance because I told you I'd get you questions, and I didn't. And then there's just a couple that came to me as we sit here.
Sure.
So the number of tickets that were closed was up there to lead the presentation. It was like
For FY '25, yes.
Yeah, almost 2,500-ish. So that's tickets closed. How many were open? Would that be the same thing, or what is that?
No, currently we have, well, just going by the ticket number, we have created over 9,000 tickets history in our system. So mind you, that calculation I think was fiscal year, not calendar year. I can get more specific statistics if you'd like. And mind you, there's also some tickets that we end up canceling too because they were open incorrectly. But our system has over 9,000 tickets, so that is it's a good steady growth. I mean, it has been growing every year, and I don't expect the trend to go down. I mean that's fine. I mean,
But that 9,000 is over multiple years.
That's over the span of roughly 3.5 years.
Okay.
Yep.
Is there a way to get us, if we close 2,451, is there a way to know how many were left open at the time that we measured the number closed? You know what I'm saying? Like, just so we sort of got an idea. 9,000, yes, is a lot, but if there were 3,000 open, right? Like, it just sort of helps us, I think, to your point.
I'll try to pull that I'll see if I can do it by the year, so you can get the differences and what was closed, what was open, left over. I'll probably just do it July 1 to June 30th, unless you prefer calendar year.
How many do you have open right now?
Under 20? Yeah, I mean, it was bad a couple months ago because we were just getting slammed, but I think we're back down to probably 20, under 30. Yes, so fluctuates every day.
Well, I know some might be open for a while if you got order parts or stuff.
Correct, yes. Some are pending, and we don't change the status to pending because it's kind of hard for us to track them because I don't want to lose any tickets, so we keep everything open. But, and we don't focus a ton on, I mean, we don't want open tickets, obviously. We want to make sure that we're taking care of folks, but we do keep them open as reminders of the pending projects. So. Larger projects, we tend to not open a ticket and just kind of, there's also a project feature in our help desk system so that we can track larger, that has multiple moving parts. So, typically we'll do server migrations and things like that in there because there's no sense making a ticket for every little step. We just kind of do it at home. So. And I'll be honest, there's a lot of tickets that we don't put in. Like, we call them by the ways. They were walking down the hall, they catch us, we take care of something. And we don't mind taking care of them, but a lot of times we don't put them in. So I don't have an estimate. We probably, if I had to guess, we probably have anywhere from like 100, 150 of those a year that we don't put in. So
at least half of those are me. So.
Huh?
At least half of those are mine. So.
I was gonna say I got probably.
So and we try to go back and put the tickets in, but sometimes we're on the move, and it's okay. Yeah, I know. So
is there trying to think how to ask this. You've got 810 supported users. From your other sort of public sector colleagues across the state, is there an idea of what that sweet spot is of staff per user, or are departments so varied that there really isn't a sort of standard?
Just anecdotally from a county standpoint, it's going to vary.
Okay.
And mind you, that 800 supported users, that's not all county employees. County employees makes up for like a portion of that. The other one is like HHS, for example, ports and things like that. I included them because we support the phone system which they use. I can see what statistics I can pull, but I think it's going to vary by every county and their needs because we have totally different systems that we run. Some counties run terrible legacy systems they have no choice but to run, which creates more work for them, and they're constantly babysitting things like that. So, so for example, Cerro Gordo County, they have more staff than we do. We're a much larger county, but they operate differently. They do more with in-house software, where we kind of use software as a service. We pay providers to do that for us. So it kind of varies on what they do in-house too. So that's a factor. I can try to pull some statistics. I'll see if ISAC has some statistics I can.
Yeah, I just didn't know if there was something available, right?
Yeah.
I don't think you need to do a full deep dive on it, but if there's something, just try to figure out. I can recognize that you're at sort of all good staffing level in an oh crap department, right? Where it's like, oh, something's not working, we need to get it fixed, and now all of a sudden, because you're at that, we can maintain at this level, but once there is a ripple, then once there's a wave, that ripple is real.
Yeah, and in IT in general, it's a reactive industry. You know, something breaks, we react to it. We try to be proactive as much as we can. That helps us be more efficient. Us asking for this position is a way of being proactive.
Yeah.
And there could be other duties that this position could do besides what was outlined. That was, you know, I provided a draft job description to all the supervisors. That is a fairly standard description for a help desk person. So I thank you for your consideration. But you know, any other questions regarding the FTE for the ticketing?
We got a couple more. You said that the help desk position would kind of be entry level to maybe transition into tech support.
Mm-hmm.
Would that mean at some point they would fill in to replace somebody that would be leaving for turnover, or would be at some point adding, once they take that promotion, if you will, then we'd be replacing them with another? Are we looking down the road? Are we looking at maybe adding somebody else?
I think, in my mind, it's sort of if this position is added, it would be, and if there's a vacancy at tech, this person would, you know, naturally move up to that position, and then we would just backfill the help desk position. Like I said, this position is a stepping stone to a tech. They will shadow the techs. They will actually get to do a lot of the work. They'll bring the work back to the office. While I would say it's kind of like a tech, except they're a little more stationary at the desk, to kind of man the phones. But they will get experience. They could be exposed to all the experiences of a technician throughout their career, and definitely picking up a lot of troubleshooting skills just grabbing the phone, learning the systems. So lots of opportunities.
And the last thing I'll plug you with, is there a way to track the time that it takes to resolve a ticket from the time its inception to closure?
Yes, we log our times for our tickets. Not minute by minute, but we just log the amount of time that we put full summary for the ticket. I could probably pull a report for you on like the time itself per ticket. Maybe it'll do a percentage ratio for you. I can at least give you it's not 1-to-1. So
Right.
we put in, you know, sometimes tickets 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. So sometimes we forget to log the time too. So there's that as well. But it does have the ability to do it, and I tell the staff to always make sure you log your time. So but I can certainly pull a report for you if you'd like.
Yeah, and you don't have to. It's just if they're also interested in it, the rest of the board, sure. But I just think that if we're adding dollar-wise, what are we looking at in total?
So
GS14.
It's GS14, I believe, with salary and benefits. The estimated cost is $77,424. Does that sound correct, Michelle? That's GS14 on the grade.
Either way, it's pretty close, ballpark. 80,000-ish.
Yeah.
It really depends on,
Like insurance.
family or single insurance. I budgeted for single, and
Okay.
it's about the 77,000.
So,
Yeah, go ahead, Joyce.
so if we're at 77,000 for the new position on salary and wage, but the change is 62, where's that difference?
We already have 0.5 in there.
Oh, that's right, okay.
Al, I'll just comment that I very much appreciate the job description. That I know you and I have talked about this position a couple of times before. I believe the argument, however, to say that your department would be operating optimally could be said at every department we have right now if we could increase by a person. So I said this one I know is weighing on me heavily, especially this year, I guess. That we've been doing several additions in the IT department. So just know I'll have more comments and questions, I guess, that I'll want to discuss after today. So thank you very much for the information.
Thank you. Definitely can have more conversations. Thank you.
I know we already discussed this previously, with regard to it being, was it unionized?
Yeah, I believe it is a bargaining position, so, right, Amanda? Okay, yeah.
All right. Does it have to be?
Uh,
I don't want to
Yeah.
put anybody in the spot, so I'm sorry if I am.
That's fine. How union positions are determined under Iowa code,
Okay,
pretty much any position, if you're not in a supervisor role or confidential role, it's open to be collected under a bargaining agreement. So this one was already in unit one, so I would say yes, definitely. Yeah, so that's just the, kind of the determination, because it's existed, so I wouldn't feel comfortable going to PPME and saying we're not gonna put it in union anymore. But yeah, that's.
Yeah.
okay. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Any other questions? Moving on to capital. So for capital 27, so this year we actually had, so on that first line it says 66 Meraki access points. Those are our wireless access points, like that guy right up there. Typically we have 5-year replacement for all hardware, and this would be this fiscal year is the 5th year for that. But we contacted the manufacturer and they said it's not going into life this year. In fact, it may not go into life for quite a bit. So we have opted to move the upgrade of the access points to the following fiscal year, so it doesn't create more of a spike with the current fiscal year. And so that is why that is reflected in the first line. The second line is the typical computer replacement cycle that we have in there. And that will come, that's actually out of department budget, not a capital request. And I think I just kind of keep those in there as a reminder for us. Thank you, Michelle, for letting me do that, even though it kind of muddies up the capital requests. So, and then the third line, which is that HPE file server, that's also just a software renewal. We just keep that in there as a reminder, so please just regard that as actual capital. Any questions on the 27 portion? And kind of just going down the road. It's too far up. So for 28, we do have 2 major firewalls that have to be replaced. And I think we even pushed that back a year just because we don't want too big of a spike. Firewalls, unfortunately, are something we absolutely have to replace. They literally stop the bad guys from reaching us. So that is one of those important pieces of equipment that we have to replace. This is the 2 main firewalls for this courthouse. Well, basically they run the whole county. We do have satellite firewalls that we are planning on replacing a staggered year. We don't want to do them all at once because it gets pricey. So that's in there. Those 4 Lenovo host server renewals, those are that's coming out of budget. So most of that is just reminder stuff. If you come down to the 4-core switches a little further down the chart, that's for $25,000. That is the end of life cycle renewal for 4 of our core switches. That is a capital request. I don't know if we probably can't push that back another year. Probably shouldn't. So just to keep in mind with replacement cycles. Could go up a year, kind of up to the board recommendation. Then the last page here. 29, it is the remainder of the Meraki switches, and that will be that is all 38. It's crazy that it's been 5 years, or will be in that fiscal year. So feels like yesterday we just bought these. So that is in there, as well as one physical security server that we run all our on-site security scans. And then please disregard the other stuff that's just coming out of department budget. So for that 29 fiscal year, those 2 items equaling 140. And then in 2030, I apologize, I had that in there twice. So that might be possible movement. Michelle, I don't know if we could maybe fluctuate those years. I don't know. That's probably why I left them in there.
You'll have to let me know which year you
Yeah,
need.
so apologies for that. So any questions regarding capital? All right. Well, no questions. I just guess, any questions overall for us?
On your capital requests, Al, has any of this changed much from last year, what you proposed?
I'm sorry, what was that?
On your capital requests, has any of this changed much from what you requested last year?
No, with the exception of just moving some things around, not really.
Okay.
Pretty consistent. Any other questions?
Nothing from me.
Well, please feel free to send any questions my way if you have anything else. I'd love to answer them, and I will work on getting those reports for you guys. Thank you again to Michelle for always helping us with our budget. Really appreciate her, and Quentin as well. You helped out with all the planning. Big thanks to the board for always being supportive of our department, so we couldn't do it without you guys. And a big thanks to our department for the work that they do. So with that, thank you very much, board.
Thanks, Al.
Well, last but not least, let Ms. Showalter take it away.
What do I need to hit?
Do you have the? Okay, I'm gonna share it for you then.
Step out for a minute.
That thing will go away eventually.
Okay, for me to go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, I am going to present on both the auditor's budget and the elections budget. Obviously, both departments are encompassed into the entire auditor's office, but it makes sense to break out the different budgets. Most importantly, because the auditor's budget is in general basic and the elections budget is covered in general supplemental. So it makes sense to present them as separate budgets. First, I just want to start with the department purpose statement. This just shows you the core work that we do in the auditor's office: elections, real estate, payroll, and claims. We also handle any permits for the county, as well as I clerk the board and keep the record of all of the minutes. Just to highlight some of our statistics, first you can see the elections piece. And I'll get to this more in detail when I present on the elections budget. But you can see that each year really varies on how many voters are processed based on what elections we have for that year. So in even fiscal years, we are administering city school elections and the primary election. And then in odd fiscal years, we're administering general elections. So you can see those changes vary quite a bit by each year. Again, I'll get into more detail about that. Then you can see the property tax bills that are calculated and managed. You can see over the course of each fiscal year or calendar year that those stats stay pretty consistent, which allows our budgets to also stay pretty consistent. And I'll get into that again when I go over the budgets. So I'm going to flip back and forth between a few different documents. I have a PowerPoint to highlight some of the items that I just discussed. All right. So getting into the PowerPoint, again, this is just a highlight of our core functions. Again, accounts payable, payroll, elections, and real estate is what our department is made up of. So first I'm going to talk about the auditor's budget, which is pretty straightforward and shows just a slight increase. I'll talk about the comparison in the budgets when I pull up the budget summary, but I just want to highlight what is changing based on last fiscal year. And the biggest cost affecting the auditor's budget is the property tax mailer. That is showing an increase because printing and postage have gone up. So overall, our auditor's budget for operating is only around $60,000, which is pretty minimal when you look at other department budgets. And if I were to be able to take out that property tax mailer, that would be half of our budget right there goes to doing that property tax mailer. It is a little over $33,000 to do. So our overall budget increased by $7,000. $5,000 of it, again, is the increase due to printing and postage. The additional $1,000 is a hosting software, so we are in the process. This has already been approved a couple years ago now, I think, but thankfully, I'm happy to announce that they're finally going to be coming and scanning all of the board minutes and getting those digitized and searchable. So that's exciting, and that should be coming next month. But the increase here is to host the board minutes on ArcaSearch. So that's the increase there. And then the $1,000 for equipment replacement, the big chunk of that is replacing the color copier in the plat room. That is $750 that has been in our capital plan. I do want to note that I think that we can get a little bit more life out of it. So if we wanted to defer this cost for a couple of years, I think we can definitely do that. One other note that I just want to make before I go to the line item of the budget is just focusing on the training budget. So I've spent a lot of time with staff over the last 4 to 6 months trying to figure out what their training needs are and to provide those resources. So I think it's worth noting here that we're having a slight increase in our training budget, but I have absorbed those costs in other places, but I think it's important to note here that we're shifting a lot of our training budget from managers to staff. And I think that's important to focus on them and what their needs are and invest in their personal and professional growth. All right, I'm gonna exit out of the auditor's budget for the PowerPoint. I only had 2 slides on the auditor's part of the budget, and so I just want to pull up the line by line item to see if you have any questions here. All right, so just going over the revenue, again, our department While the expenses are nominal, so is the revenue. We don't have a lot of revenue coming into the auditor's office. The biggest chunk is the liquor and cigarette licenses that that run through our office for the county. We do some notaries, we have some mapping, but the revenue is pretty minimal. Moving on to the operating expenses, again, I highlighted them. You can see the property tax mailer will be under printing and postage, so you can see that increase on 0444 and 0446, nearly $5,000. So again, you can see the overall budget. We're asking for $62,000. Again, pretty minimal when you compare it to other departments, and not a lot of change from fiscal year to fiscal year. Again, it's being driven by the cost of that property tax mailer. I will add that there is legislation. This is a positive. There is 2026 legislation that will allow for us to do an electronic notice. So I am hopeful I can come back to you and say that that's no longer required, which then would cut that in half. So that would be positive news, but.
Next thing in the budget, I'll be talking about that.
Yeah. Oh, great. Okay. So again, you can see, I already highlighted that 7,000 increase. You know what that's due to. 12% increase, which seems high, but again, our total budget is only around $62,000. Any questions on no additional staff changes? I don't anticipate that.
Karen, just off,
And the next
again, I know you said it once already, but what is the cost of doing that mailer?
$33,500.
I remember a few weeks ago, we talked about, was there an option to either add verbiage or another piece of paper explaining the nature of that mailing? Any insights yet on what that's, other counties are doing it, or whether it's allowed, or?
It's not allowed, we're not allowed to edit that mailer. That's the requirement from the state.
Like, can we add a separate letter in with it?
You could, that would increase the cost likely. Maybe not postage, but certainly printing.
Just print.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I'm hopeful that they'll allow for the electronic notice, but unfortunately, that expense is required and out of our control. Any other questions on the auditor piece? Again, the auditor budget would cover payroll, accounts payable, flat room, and real estate. Okay, I'm gonna exit out of here, go back to my PowerPoint, and move on to the elections budget, which is a little bit more complex. Okay, for the elections budget, I just want to point out a couple of key considerations. It's very difficult to look at the elections budget. You can't really compare to the previous year. You really need to go back to when we were administering a general election. So anytime I am budgeting for the elections budget, so we're going to be an FY27 budget, I need to go back and look at the FY25 budget, which is the last time we administered a general election. The cost is different. How we administer the elections is different, and so I just want to note some of those key considerations. Turnout definitely matters when we're talking about the elections budget. Voter turnout drives costs. When we're looking at administering primaries and city school elections, which we do in even fiscal years, we're only talking about between 20 and 30% turnout, which would equate to about 20,000 voters. When we're looking at administering a general election, the turnout is more like 75% turnout, and that goes up to 65,000 voters. So that is really important to note when we're talking about the elections budget. Again, the turnout drives the cost. I need more people to help administer that election. I need more supplies like absentee envelopes and materials. So the other thing to note on here with elections, we're not able to spread out that workload. With elections, we have to administer that election within the 20-day requirement that the state gets to choose. So in the past, when I first started in 2016, that window was 40 days and now it's down to 20 days. So narrowing that window requires me to bring in more people because I have less time to do it, even though I have the same amount of voters to process. A couple of more considerations for the elections budget for this fiscal year. I really like when I can come to you in even fiscal years because I get to talk about revenue. When we administer city school elections, by law, cities and schools are required to reimburse us for administering those elections. I can't say that in odd fiscal years. For state and federal elections, the county pays for the cost. So in FY27, we will have the general election, so that's why you'll see the revenue zeroed out there. I also want to touch on special elections. We don't budget for special elections, so as you know, right now we are planning and presenting on the budget for July 2026 through June 2027. I have no idea if there's going to be any special elections in that time frame, so we don't budget for it because we also don't want to tax for elections we don't know that are happening. So I just note here that this could require a budget amendment. However, the good news is if I had to come to ask you for a budget amendment to cover a special election, in the same breath, I'm also probably going to tell you that it's for a city or a school and I'll get the revenue that will offset the expense.
How long do they have to pay for the special election, whichever entity?
They're there's no requirement, if you will, no deadline, but I would say all the cities and schools are really good about reimbursing us and we stay on top of them to get that. And we give, the good thing is when we do administer city and schools, we figured out a way to have it based off of voter registration fees. So we're able to consistently charge them the same amount every fiscal year. So they're able to put it in their city school budgets to be able to not have any unexpected expense there, which I think makes that easier for them to reimburse us because that money's already budgeted. So some highlights on the budget, I want to talk about some decreases and increases. Before I even get into this, I do have good news to tell you that the elections budget, you will see a decrease in comparison to the last 2 fiscal years. So I'll note that when I pull up the line by line. But some of the decreases that you're going to see is a decrease in the training budget. And that's because we had new staff and new rules in this fiscal year. And so we invested into their training in this fiscal year. So that number can come down. The dues and membership line item you'll see will also go down because we are no longer with Precinct Atlas, which is our electronic poll book program. You will also see a decrease in office and election supplies. And that is because now that we're settled into our new space and have gone through at least one general election of operating in-person voting down in the basement, we have already made those expenses so example, we had to buy an additional ballot on demand printer and additional voting booths for the downstairs in-person voting to make that space work. I'm not going to need that this year because that's already been purchased. Also, with moving to a new electronic poll book program, we no longer need to purchase toner for the laser printers, which is a significant expense. With our new poll book program, it's thermal printers, so it's just the receipt paper, so no longer have to purchase toner. I just want to note on here that you'll see, again, when I talk about comparing to FY25, and you'll see why that is, FY27 is less Then FY '25, another expense in there was that we did a hardware security upgrade, which was necessary to keep our voting machine equipment secure. So those are all decreases that you won't see in this current fiscal year. We do have a couple of increases. The annual agreement with our new electronic poll book program is higher than it was with Precinct Atlas, but we also have other cost savings with that, and I will touch on that when I get into the detail. One of the things that you will see in this budget is updating our online training videos. The last time that we did that, so we did all of our training in person. Going through COVID allowed us to have to be creative and do things a little bit differently. And so one of the things that we implemented was online training. So we had those training videos professionally done here locally. The last time those were updated were in 2022. The biggest reason to update those is because of the 10X poll book program, but we've also had some legislative changes that we need to update. Also, there is a new legislation that was passed that we are now required to train every precinct worker before every election. That also includes any specials or the runoff. So as you guys know, we had the city school election in November, and then 4 weeks later had to turn around and have the December runoff. That is not enough time to allow us to bring everybody back in person, which is also much more expensive. This is why having something like this with the online training videos will meet that requirement to be able to train precinct workers before every election. So given that we do need to get those online training videos updated. We're using the same company, which is Around the Corner Productions, which have been really, really great to work with. And as you can see, I think that that's pretty reasonable for them to do that, the $4,500. Absentee envelopes are not certainly a new expense, but I just want to note that we only purchase these in general election years. So you will only see that expense in odd fiscal years. If you're wondering why that line item is changing from last fiscal year to this fiscal year. All right, again, just talking about what we're anticipating for the 2026 general election. I am planning for higher turnout than past gubernatorial elections due to an open governor seat and an open U.S. Senate seat. I think that will drive turnout, so we are anticipating and planning for a higher turnout than we saw in 2022. Again, I already talked about this, but the budget impact of that voter turnout directly drives our election budget. When I talk about additional staffing, and again, I'll get into this in the line item budget, but for primaries and city school elections, myself and the rest of the elections team are able to administer those elections on our own. We don't bring in the part-time work. But when I then now am talking about having to process an additional 40,000 people in 20 days, I have to have extra help. It is not uncommon for our office to get 1,000 absentee ballot requests in the mail, and we are required to turn those around in 24 hours. I can't have staff working 24/7 to do that. So needing to bring in that extra help, as well as you guys know, we have now moved that in-person voting to down in the basement, which was extremely successful. Again, we were seeing about 1,000 people a day, and we do bring in precinct workers to do that downstairs. So that's why, just to explain the extra staffing needs for this fiscal year. Again, always like to highlight that you will see an overall decrease in the elections budget for fiscal year over the last two. A couple of reasons for this is the reason why it's a little bit less expensive than FY '25 is because it's a gubernatorial election versus a presidential. The presidential is always going to be our most expensive election that we administer. We are also seeing more people vote in person than by mail. And so I looked at that trend over the last several years, and I was willing to drop that postage line item because, as you know, voters that are voting in person, we don't have to pay for the postage to mail out the ballot. So I have seen that voter trend again over the last few years. And also we've been able to drop the budget a little bit because of a new electronic poll book offers definitely some efficiency, which equates to reduced cost. Some of that, I think the most important piece of that is we're able to come down on the overtime for full-time staff with this new electronic poll book program. Before I get into the capital requests, I just want to pull up the line item budget for elections so that you can see that and answer any questions that you have. All right, so again, talking about revenue, you can see clearly that change, and I already explained why that revenue is zeroed out is because we don't get reimbursed for administering general elections. So you can see that we have a lot of decreases here. The first several line items are decreased, and that is because, again, I'm looking at comparing the FY27 to the FY25. Some of this difference is because in even fiscal years, we have 2 elections that we're administering. So when it comes to training, I'm training them twice for in-person training instead of once, even though we do have more precinct workers for general elections. So that explains those decreases. You can see I think the biggest one to note on here is line 0442, and that is noting that agreement with 10X with our electronic poll book, that's that 30,000. The printing services and postage, line items 0444 and 0446, that is due to the absentee part of administering the elections. We are going to need to order more envelopes to be able to process absentee voters, but also it accounts for just the amount of absentee. We are looking at about 25,000 absentee voters, so that includes that cost. So to order the supplies as well as to get the ballot to them, which is in line with FY25 and actually has come down. And again, it's because I'm noting that trend of more people voting in person. So I was comfortable with bringing those line items down from FY25. Again, you can see a decrease that I talked about in election supplies and office supplies, and I feel comfortable bringing those down because, again, now that we're settled in our space, I feel comfortable that we don't need to purchase anything to administer or anything additional to administer the 2026 election. And another reason that those costs come down is because of the electronic poll book program that we moved to. We don't have to buy cases and reams of paper and toner. So we're seeing a savings that way. And line item 0670 with professional services, again, that is updating the online training videos. And then you can see some significant decrease in line 0994. And that is because we only have one election, I should say one known election to administer, so that is coming down to 90,000 from the 130, and that's because we had the 2 elections to administer in FY26. You will note that it is down, so looking at the election precinct official line item, it is worth noting that that is not just election day workers. That's also the workers that go out to our healthcare facilities. That's the workers that do the absentee work, our absentee team. That's also our all of the precinct workers that handle all the in-person voting down in the basement. So you can see the actuals after the end of November, that 93,000 was what the actuals were to do to administer the 2024 general election. Our actuals for the whole year were more around the range of 115, and that's because we did have special elections. So you can just see the difference. And again, if I were to have to come back to do a budget amendment for that, typically we will also get the revenue in. So you can see an overall decrease down about $10,000 or 3% over the last fiscal year. But again, you can also see that it's down significantly from FY25, where we had 390,000. Again, I feel comfortable coming down based on being settled into our space, that it's not a presidential year, and with just some of the other efficiencies that we have. Any questions on the operating expense part for the elections? Okay. I hesitate to say you guys are making this really easy for me, since I'm not quite done.
Yeah.
I just wanted to touch on the staffing. So no change to our elections team as far as the number. As you know, and I thank you again for allowing me to restructure our elections team based on our needs. So you can just see that restructuring, that we used to have 2 election specialists, but we changed that to having 1 election specialist and 1 elections technician, just based on the fact that we're it's very technical work that we do to administer elections. So no change to the full-time staff. Then you can see our part-time help with our election clerks and our voting machine techs. So again, in line with what we did in FY25, just slightly higher, and that's because we had a slight increase to the hourly pay for our election clerks. Any questions on the extra staffing? And again, the extra staffing is because the 4 of us can't administer an election for 60,000 voters in 20 days. I know, we're good, but not good. So if there's no questions on that, I do have a couple of capital items that I want to bring to your attention. So a couple of capital requests. I have been talking about for the last 5 years that this is going to be coming, that we are getting to the end of the life on our voting machine equipment. These are our tabulators and the express vote machines, so the equipment that you see out at the polling locations. We purchased this equipment in the fall of 2015, received it in the spring of 2016. They say that the life of these machines are 10 years, and so we're here. It has been on our capital plan, like I said, for the last 5 years. I did get an updated quote from our current vendor, and we're looking at about $1 million to replace all of that equipment. The other thing I would ask for consideration, so our election records were digitized several years ago. I can't remember exactly what year, but a few years after I started, which was a priority to get those digitized so we didn't lose the record of these. And so at the time, it made the most sense to go with COT Systems. We got a really good deal to have them digitize it because we were able then just to store our records on the recorder site. As you guys know or remember, the recorder's office moved those records from COT to Fiddler, and so unfortunately we lost control over those records. They're still scanned and we didn't lose the digitization of them, but they are just not searchable on that format anymore. And so I would like to be able to move those over to ArcaSearch, and got a quote from ArcaSearch to do that, which would be $16,000. So I hate to have to ask for that, but they are not searchable by the public for sure. It's pretty time consuming and tedious for us to do it within the office. So just ask for that for consideration. While I do have both of these capital requests, I think it's also worth noting that you won't see any more capital requests from me in the next 5-year plan. Questions on that?
So that's basically just elections, not the other part of the duties that we do.
For capital requests, we don't, so the only capital request we had for the auditor's part of the budget was replacing that plat room
Right.
printer that was $750. I pulled that over into this budget, but again, I don't think it's necessary to replace it and would be happy to move that along. I'm not even necessarily sure that a $750 printer needs to be in the capital plan. I would be happy to just add it to the budget when we need to replace that. So the only two capital requests I have for the entire auditor's office are these two. And again, don't have any other capital requests for the next 4 years.
Karen,
Karen is,
Go ahead, Chris.
Karen, I was just gonna ask, is the life expectancy on this next round of voting machines still 10 years?
That's what they're telling me, yes.
Okay. And is there any resale value to the old ones? I mean, I imagine,
Yes.
I don't know.
Yep, that's a really good point to make. They actually will buy back our old equipment, not at a significant cost, but at least they will buy that back and take that equipment from us, and that's included in the 1 million.
Okay.
As far as you know, are there any federal dollars available to help support that?
Nope. Or state.
Last year, we increased the township per diem for the clerks and trustees. Are we seeing any kind of increase in your auditor's budget for any of that change? Or?
It's very minimal. We haven't had, it's great that we did it. We are finding that the people who are elected in those positions feel like it's their civic duty and don't ask for reimbursement. Okay. But I'm glad that we did it to highlight the importance of their work, but we're not seeing, that's not any significant cost to the budget.
And that really isn't in this budget?
That would be in the
budget.
That'd be in the
already talked about.
in the auditor's part of the budget.
Okay.
This is just election specific.
Okay.
Is the $1 million for the voting machines, is that bond eligible at all, or does it exceed?
Yes.
It is.
That's why I have it.
You want me to pull that up? I can pull up Michelle's 5-year plan here.
In the past, anyway, optical scanning equipment is specifically spelled out as an essential purpose for counties. There is one of the property tax bills, I assume, removes that because it wants the staff to have a public vote on. It's $1, apparently, but it's awfully early. I suspect those will change before the end of the session.
Does that help? This spreadsheet. I did want to forget to talk about one thing, but is there any other questions for me? So one thing that's not included in this budget, but was requested to get some more information on, was a mailer to all the voters about the new supervisor district. So I did get some costs on that. The reason why it's not in this budget, because it's going to determine, it's going to be dependent on timing of when we want that mailer to go out. So just to give you some numbers here, if we were to send a new voter card to every voter, print and postage, that's 81,000 voters, we're looking at about $25,000. Another option that we can do that we've done in the past when we've had any legislative change is we have done a household postcard, separate of a voter registration card, just to announce a change. So we've done that several times. If we did a household mailer, that would be about 47,000 households and about $13,000. So there's a couple of different options there. I am indifferent to whichever you guys want to choose. The timing is important to note that if you want to send out that mailer before the primary, that would be in this current fiscal year, which I would need a budget amendment because I don't believe I can cover the cost for either of those. If we wanted to wait until before the general election, then certainly could add it to this budget. So, but I just wanted to bring that up in these budget conversations. Not that you have to make a decision now, but that's the information.
What's your timeline? Getting the postcards printed in people's mailbox, what's that?
So we work with Matt Parrott on any of these large mailers. They're local, great partner of ours. I mean, we can get them the voter list and I can mock up a postcard now and just have it ready to go. So I'm not worried about either if we wanted to do it before the primary or the general. That's definitely not a concern. We have plenty of time to do that.
And would it be just one generic card or is something specific to the people within each district that telling them you're in X district?
So it would depend on what option you wanted to do. If you wanted to send a voter registration card to every voter, it would be their voter registration card. So it would have their information and it would have their new district. And so that would be that 25,000. If we wanted to do something more generic with just a household mailer on a postcard, it would say, based on your residence, you are in district 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I would also like to add in the polling location information, every opportunity that we can get to let people know where to go vote, we would do, but that would just be more generic to the household, but still have that same information. Does that answer your question? And I'm, like I said, I think it's a great idea, just something that we had not budgeted. So I would defer to whatever you guys want to do, but I do think it would be a good idea to communicate the change.
We're just gonna do it once?
Until 2030 when we have redistricting again.
So, yeah. All right.
So yeah, depending, if you guys wanted to do something before the primary, I would say if you could let us know by beginning of March, that would be helpful. Just so that we can add it to our to-do list.
Steve?
That is all I have. I do, would be remiss not to thank the staff for all of their feedback and helping me to prepare these budgets, and certainly want to thank you guys for all of the support that we've had over the years, especially in regards to elections. I have felt very supported in changes that we've wanted to do to increase efficiencies or restructure the office, so thank you very much for that.
All right. That being said, work session complete. Next item is legislative update. Rich?
So Linda and I sat on the Urban Coalition as part of our what's going on with legislative issues. And this past week, they were asking about the different counties and taking positions. So today, I just want to give you a heads up. I think, Linda, correct me if we're wrong, probably next week, we're gonna need some direction from this board as taking a position in some of these pieces of legislation. This morning, I just want to get a couple things out there so you're aware of it. The thing I just handed out is a property tax reform bill comparison. This came from our friends from Scott County that's on the UCC board with us as well. They have given some analysis on some of these bills between the difference of those. And I'm gonna kind of go through some highlights here that I've talked about or brought up that you'll see in this. Initially, talking about the Senate bill, there's quite a few more changes in the Senate bill compared to either the governor's bill or the House bill. Again, they are looking at limiting property tax revenue growth to 2%, but there is also a CPI index on there to increase if the CPI is above 4% and 6%, or between 6 and 8%, it adjusts up on each of those portions. There is a change in the valuations and how they would be done. One residential property would be assessed at 70% of actual value in year 26-27, and then increased to 3% annually each year thereafter, and reaching 100% of actual value by year 2037. By operation of law, the elimination of the residential assessment growth limitation would be moved all classifications to property exempt residential, multi-residential, and agricultural at 100% of actual value. Item on here is the veterans. This is just on the Senate bill. The division would replace a homestead property tax credit with a homestead property tax exemption. So there's some changes there in how it would affect the veterans. The military property tax exemption would increase for the 4,000, would increase the 4,000 military service property tax exemption by $1,000 per year up to a maximum of 7,000. And that all started in fiscal year 2028. Some changes with the hospitalization or hospital and medical services property tax levy. It would allow us to have a separate levy. I don't know if that affects us countywide as much, but it would allow us to have a separate levy for things for county hospitals, emergency medical services districts, and voter-approved emergency medical services. Property tax levy rates would make adjustments to the local match requirements related to transfers to the secondary road fund from the general service fund and rural service fund. That's more of a Michelle question on how that would affect us. So as I'm going through this, there's going to be other questions that just I'm going to make sure people understand some of these big things here. This also would prohibit counties and cities from issuing bonds or incurring other indebtedness paid by property tax for the purpose of funding general operations. That would be a big owie for us. There is an issue here we're not quite sure on. The regional transit district levy would establish a new maximum levy rate for regional transit districts and would establish an annual limitation on property tax dollars received by regional transit districts. This is one of the better parts that Karen talked about. It would authorize the political subdivisions to post online in lieu of mailing the taxpayer statement contained in county, city, or school budget information and mailed to individual property owners or the county auditor. As you look at this, three bills, the Senate bill is the only one that included that. There is some exclusions there for TIF if you have a data center in your area. Moving to the House bill, would make some changes to the individual taxpayer mail statements in that one as well, but not specific to what that change would be. So as I say, is the Senate's the only one that has specifics. They do mention it, but there's no details of what's going on with the House side. They also would look at moving a lot of consolidated services the counties have or cities to the Council of Governments. Again, it's not very specific in what part they're looking at doing that as well. Bonding in the House piece would make modifications to bond proceedings for counties established that beginning in FY '26. Bonds for essential county or corporate purposes would be followed the same voter approval process as general obligation bonds rather than action by the Board of Supervisors or City Councils. This will limit our use of road use funds in slowing it down or crippling it. The big thing with the governor's piece is this change in the homestead credit for homestead exemptions and eliminate the state appropriations for the credit. Similarly, the division would change the credit for certain disability veterans to a property tax exemption from the full taxable valuation in the property. This, and they call it division, would also make changes to the property tax growth credit, including owners age 65 and over, and would eliminate the $6,500 property tax exemption from owners age 65 and older. The other item in the governor's piece is would provide procedures for moving certain county elected offices to appointed officials. The division would include the positions of auditor, recorder, and treasurer would be filled by appointment by the Board of Supervisors at the conclusion of the current term and earlier vacancies thereafter. So that's just some of the highlights. I can see, I can show you the copy I have, and it's got things I just talked about highlighted. I do encourage you to read through. If you don't have this, I'll make sure you get this scenario of all those analysis of those three bills. There is several others that are in discussion down there at the Capitol, but haven't been moved forward. So I think just wanted to get you a heads up on it today. And correct me, Linda, I think we need to have an answer to them by next Friday on some of these.
I think you're probably speaking specifically to that House Study Bill 563 about the auditor, treasurer, and recorder. That was one I know.
No, I think, well, they were talking about two of that and the other one too, for these, the property tax bills.
I know some of the discussion that day was that that would seem to be drinking from a fire hose and already in these first sessions. And several of us, as well as Gary and Larry, had mentioned, while we so often, register that we are monitoring down at the State House. I think it was Wayne Kennecker mentioned, do we want to register opposed? And I think because even Larry, Gary, and many of us hadn't had a chance to actually read the specific language. So we all asked to go back and see what that is. And who knows, Rich, that could have changed by today as well.
Yes.
But try to get that information out as soon as we'd receive it to our other supervisors, and then would come back with a position. You're correct in the fact that some of that, as it comes funneling to us quickly, would made for very quick decisions, but we could just get the information to the other supervisors, Blackhawk County ones, as soon as we could, and then try to put it on an agenda. So who knows when that will be, but yeah, it could be next week, as soon as next week.
So a couple of the other bills to bring your attention to that's been filed. There was a Senate Study Bill 3026 to limit bond votes, that you would only be able to go to a bond vote in general elections. And then the one in particular for counties, Senate Study Bill 3009, it would eliminate township clerks and trustees and shift all that burden onto the county. So that would definitely affect Karen's budget. And
Yeah, I think we would probably, those tasks would probably come to our office, I'm guessing.
And probably include having the need for one, if not maybe two employees more for handling what our clerks and township folks take care of out there in our rural areas. And then another one is House Study Bill 573, which we're not sure if it's got legs or not, but would require us to approve the minutes of the meeting today before we adjourn. So we will see how things progress.
Rich, did you have?
Oops. Go ahead, Linda.
No, I was going to say, did you mention, and I just didn't happen to catch about the EMS bill or the early childhood investment, I guess, program that they were looking at abolishing that. And that would be the local voice, and it'd been, in place for 25 years, and that was one of them that concerned a lot of us as well. Another opportunity, it looked like, for the state, really doing similar to what they had with mental health and what they have with Department of Corrections, kind of taking over the responsibility of that, but eliminating the local voice. So,
That hasn't received a bill number yet, that's why I haven't bring it up yet.
okay.
I'll be at the
Thank you.
Capitol tomorrow talking to legislators. If there's anything else you want me to visit with on the issue, let me know, and all the fun.
Outstanding. Thanks for bringing that up. Item number 10, any reports or information from the board?
I just add that last week, I believe, the 20th, Grove Cedar Valley presented their proposal. I told them I would bring that. I placed the item on the agenda on February 10th. So if folks have questions, you want to ask directly. We've got Katie's contact information and the presentation that was forwarded out. So, and then I heard from Alan as well that I think they're wanting to bring their question to the floor on funding for their project or the Children's Center. So.
Do either they have a hard time when they need an answer?
I think they're just looking to hear from us what we're wanting to do, so, I would suspect in the next couple of weeks.
All right.
I'll just bring up, we've got the understanding your property assessments again, the town halls, February 5th in Cedar Falls Library, February 24th, Waterloo Library, 6 to 7:30. We do have it on the county website, so you can get signed up for it, and would appreciate getting some of the board members done that with me as well with the process.
All right, if there's nothing else, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
To close session. When do we have closed session? I got the wrong agenda.
That was
Eliminated.
Move to adjourn.
Motion?
Second.
Second. Thank you, everybody. Motion for the meeting is adjourned.